This is The Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to The Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Luann Zaraga-Walters. Our guests today are passionate change makers. They inspire hope, and they are amazing representations of living the American dream. Years of hard work and dedication led to the ability to give back in ways that will last for generations. Among other things, they're passionate about medicine, education, and mentoring. People who call them friends and mentors have told me that their philanthropy stems entirely from a deep love for their community. We are so honored to have Frank and Carol Morsani on the show with us today. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
We've just been having a ball getting to know each other before the show started too, but for those of our viewers who are watching in California and Michigan and elsewhere around the world, really being internet, I want to give a little bit of a rundown of some of the different positions that you've held and the contributions to this community. Frank and Carol Morsani have started with 1 or 2 car dealerships, Frank?
2.
2, and blossomed that into 30 car dealerships around the nation. Frank has served on the following positions and boards: Chairman of the Board of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He was appointed by both President Reagan and President Bush to 2 small business councils, and also Board of Trustees at the University of South Florida. Carol has served on the board of the Tampa Museum of Art, the board of the Florida Orchestra, H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center, also founder and honorary chair of the University of South Florida's Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, which we love going with the acronyms, USFWOP. It saves a lot of time with that. They have given over $43 million to USF, as well as being a founding donor with the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay, I believe 7 or 8 million. Really inspiring in the community and really invested in the change that they can do. And just as importantly is the amazing contributions that you have. You've shown us that we can live that American dream, right? I want to talk about your backgrounds. Now, you're not originally from Florida.
No.
So where are you from and how did you meet?
You go ahead.
So I go for it. All right. I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We both went off. We met in high school. Yeah. Oh, this has been a long history
that's
here.
That's wonderful.
I think we had one class together, and we had one date in high school. Happened to be the junior-senior prom, and that was in '49, I guess.
Oh, I love that.
And we both went off, not knowing it. You know, we had that one date, and we just kind of it drifted
didn't
apart.
click yet?
Yeah, no,
okay.
not yet. No. That's what I say. He was very slow, or I was very dull. I'm not sure which is the case. But we went off to Oklahoma State, not knowing, or Oklahoma A&M, not knowing either one of us were going to do that. And I was driving down the street with my sister, who'd come over from Oklahoma City, and we were driving down the street, and he's walking down the curb. And I said, I know that man or that boy. Honk at him. And so she honked at him, and we waved. And I guess very soon after that, I got a phone call. How are you? This is Frank Morsani. And so it's been going on since then.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we were supposed to be there. I think we were put there at that time because we had met, you know, a long time ago. And
so the first time it didn't click, but the second time
it did.
That was
yes,
it.
Yes. So we've been together since then.
Wow. And then now you had some time in service during college.
No, that was, yeah, but that was after we were married.
That was after we were married, yeah. Yes, so I was in the service in the Navy for 4 years. And then we came back out of the Navy and went back to school.
Well, and I like to say it because my father was Air Force career. Thank you for your service. It's always very important for that. So then what brought you, what transferred you from Oklahoma to Florida?
Well, I worked for Ford Motor Company for several years, and that's how I got transferred to Florida. I worked for Ford, and they transferred me to Jacksonville. And that's how we ended up in Florida.
And did you start your car dealerships in Florida or in Oklahoma?
No, in Florida.
Okay.
I didn't start. I worked for Ford. Then I worked for another man, a chain operator, like I later became. And I ran dealerships in Florida and New Jersey and California. And then we had the opportunity to the gentleman that owned at that time the Mercedes-Benz dealership and Toyota dealership here in Tampa was an old friend of ours. And he became very ill, and I was in Los Angeles, and we didn't like Los Angeles, but what was going on at that time, an awful lot of drugs in the schools and everything, and our children were young. And so, so we came here, and then unfortunately he died 11 months later, and my agreement was when I came that I would buy out his widow upon his death. And so I did that. And so that's how we started in the car business here in Tampa.
And then expanded to 30 dealerships nationally. That's amazing. Frank, one of the things that I've read about you is that you really wanted to empower your employees in your car dealerships. In other words, you didn't just have this job, you also had a different responsibility in order to do that job. Like somebody who may wash cars also needed to buy the products to wash those cars. Correct. Why was that important to you?
Well, actually most of my management style and creative is from the military. Because and that was what I refer to it. In the military, they always pass responsibility to the lowest common denominator. So I said, well, why don't we create in the small business especially, it's probably in your business, you got a flat structure. And so no matter, and so especially with closely held corporations, in small business, you have to create a flat management structure. So that's what we did, and that gave a lot of people authority for their area of responsibility. As an example, we might take a service manager at a dealership and say, this year you're going to buy the property and casualty insurance for the company. So you have to go call in these insurance companies, get the proposal, and then bring them to the manager.
And they rise to the occasion.
Right. And by doing that, there was only one service manager, but you're improving his price tag or her price tag by those kind of actions. So we created a flat management program, but again, passing responsibility to the lowest common denominator and let people make decisions I don't believe in micromanaging. I've often said we could have never done the things we did under a micromanagement philosophy. So it gave us, she and I, opportunities that we would have never had under a micromanagement, in our opinion.
You know, in hearing you talk about that, it just makes me think of empowerment and the passion that you both have towards mentoring as well, which the USF Women in Leadership and Philanthropy is strongly about the mentoring. What does mentoring mean to you, Carol?
Mainly helping people get ahead. You know, you get an experienced student that has a desire to learn or a desire to go into their own business or something like that. And this is a way of encouraging them, leading them, giving them help, giving them direction. And we just started that in WLP. You know, after it was going along, you massage and you head that direction, doesn't work, you go another. And so that's kind of a fairly recent innovation, and so we're pretty well on track now. You know.
And congratulations, 10 years that's been on. Wonderfully done. It's already time for our first break, but when we come back in the next segment, I want to talk about those things that you're passionate about, the issues within the community, and what that means to you and what you see within our community. So up next, more wonderful conversation with Frank and Carol Morsani, and still to come, our value tip of the week. We'll be right back.
This show is sponsored by Navigen Leadership, navigating generations at work.
Does this sound familiar? Do your friends and family keep telling you, get on Facebook? Or maybe you already are on Facebook, but you find yourself stuck, not quite sure what to do. I've been teaching social media for more than 6 years to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits, and I've helped many of my friends who are themselves grandparents get set up and familiar with the basics of Facebook. I've been waiting for a class just made for grandparents and boomers to come along so I could pass it on to them. And then I realized, why am I waiting? So I reached out to a couple dozen or so of our grandparent friends, asking them, what are your main questions and frustrations around using Facebook? And that's what this course is all about.
Using screen recordings like this one, I will walk you through the answers and also use markup tools to point out specific things that I think are important for those lectures. In addition, I've put together some documents for you that you can use as resource guides. You can print these or download them and access what you've just learned in the previous lecture or in the previous section.
You can take this course at your own speed, skip to lectures that answer your main questions first, or take the lectures in order to build your knowledge base. So, are you ready to have fun and learn about this Facebook thing? Enroll today, and I'll see you in class.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show, talking today with Frank and Carol Morsani, two incredible change makers in the Tampa Bay community and beyond, with the amount that they have not just philanthropically invested, but as we were talking in the first segment, how you invested in the employees at your car dealerships nationwide, really entrusting them to become their best selves, which that's wonderful, and how that is also reflected in the mentoring program with WLP. So thank you both again for being on. When did you become, I guess, invested in the nonprofit community? How did that transpire?
Well, maybe we need to go back and say we were always raised you're supposed to help people. And early on, we put too much emphasis on financial things, in that sometimes just being a volunteer is being in philanthropy, and being in leadership. So I think we started out as volunteers, and then
that's all we could afford to do early on.
And then leadership people gravitate to leadership. Leadership is kind of an evolution of your life or of whatever you do. And so we were doing those things, and then finally, as we created some financial resources, we were able to, even though along the way we did support a lot of things at a lower level financially. And then as our finances improved, we were able to step out and make change with our finances.
I don't know if you two are familiar with a man named Jack Levine. He lives up in Tallahassee, but he calls folks who volunteer time philanthropists, because that is a sense of giving as well.
That's a good word.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's kind of neat. Well, so have you always had a passion around medicine, education? I mean, where did you find yourselves wanting to volunteer first, and then?
Oh, we never, I guess this is a nice thing to say. Passion was never really why we've done these things. We did them because we thought they were the right things. That they're the right things for the time and the community. If you would look at the giving to the Dali Museum. The Dali Museum is a wonderful, wonderful attribute of this community. And I was on that board, and we said we needed a new building. I said, well, let's all get together and raise some money for a new building. I know nothing about art. I like some art I don't like. But so it wasn't a passion. It's what's right for the culture. A community cannot sustain itself without strong cultural underpinnings. And the art, whether they're visual or performing arts, every community needs those.
It's a part of its identity.
It's right, part of its identity, part of its DNA. And so that's how we just felt like this. And my wife has always been in art and in the visual arts, and a big supporter of visual arts. So I said, well, why don't we do something like that? So it wasn't not necessarily passion. It's just what we thought was the right thing at the right time.
From
I'd
getting
let
your
you
pulse.
say that.
It's always something we've enjoyed. We came here from Los Angeles. Before that, we were around just outside Philadelphia. They had all these lovely museums, and we enjoyed it there. And we came to Tampa, and there was nothing really. The art museum was in a Quonset hut, and so
Wow.
it was terrible. It was where the old fairgrounds were in Tampa, and that was the art museum. So obviously you didn't have much art. they didn't
You
have...
just told me some Tampa history. I did not know that.
Yeah. It was really in sad need of something, so we've helped them build 2 buildings at this point. I think they're pretty happy with where they are for a while. And I was on the building committees, and you know, to raise funds, you always have to go out and raise funds. So it just felt like it was, I mean, to have a town this large at the time we came here in 1970, to be just a desert of, and you know, the school systems keep cutting art all the time because they think STEM is so much more important, which is important, but you've got to have these other things too. So
that's that well-rounded personality, and so you're looking at the community's personality and saying, how can we round that out too? What do you see are some of the challenges in communities today?
Well, Florida has some major challenges, and our problems are that, in my view, that we've had a lot of people come to Florida, but we don't have enough people that are taking ownership of Florida. Therein lies why Florida hasn't progressed in some of these areas, especially in the arts.
How do you mean that, Frank? They're not...
Well, I mean, they move here from, every day we have 800 new people move in every day. They're from Ohio or Pennsylvania or Kansas, wherever they're from. So now their loyalties are all there. They're not here.
I see.
So the loyalties have not been developed yet. It's like USF, the loyalties are starting to be developed. They've now graduated over 200,000 students, and now then those folks graduated from college and they went on to careers, and now financially they're able to invest back into the university, and the University of Tampa the same way. And there's all kinds of illustrations. And especially with a state like Florida, with where we haven't capitalized. We haven't figured out how to capitalize on the new people that are coming in. Not only from a philanthropy standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint as well.
And an ownership.
Well, they haven't taken ownership. That's right. Right. And so, to address your question, that's a real challenge for all the communities, and none of us have figured out how to do it yet. I haven't seen any impetus or emphasis, regardless of the community in Florida. We haven't worked to get people, to encourage people to take ownership.
So let me ask you the flip question then, and maybe Carol, you can go with this. And what do you see as the vision? What would be the vision of a healthy community?
Oh gosh. There's a lot to do.
That is a big one.
Yeah, there is, because it still seems like it's a transit community. You know, people are coming. They're building huge developments, and people are coming, and they are living here, as opposed to coming here for the summer or the winter and going back and so forth. So if, like Frank said, if we could get them involved, there's just so many things that Tampa needs to do. And as I said, coming from Los Angeles and Philadelphia, it was a real cultural shock when we came. So all those things need to be developed. And I think they are.
Oh, yes.
Much more from when we came here. But like you said, too, we need the people who come here that were executives somewhere else and did this in their home city, certainly need to get involved here and tell us, well, this is the way you do that. This is how you raise the funds. This is how you set up the organization. And it's just trying to get more people involved.
Well, I would just say, from all of the Tampa Bay citizens, thank you for staying, because you've actually helped us, you know, kind of progress through that. But I want to ask you, and we're going to take a quick break, but I want to ask you when we come back about what your hopes are. What gives you hope when you see things happen? And we've been talking about the challenges and the vision, but we'll talk about the hope. And also, still to come,
a very tender truth or care. Stay with us. Video is one of the most effective ways of sharing your message with potentially millions of people in a very short time. But what happens if you produce a video with just so-so lighting, or poor framing, or horrible sound? Well, your business reputation takes a subconscious hit. I've been using video to tell stories for the past 30 years for businesses and nonprofits. And for the past 4 years, I've been teaching the professional techniques I've learned to thousands of students throughout Florida.
This is what I know. Creating quality videos does not have to be expensive, but it does require investing time in yourself, learning skills to set you apart. Using the techniques and tips that you'll learn through this course, you will quickly be creating quality videos that set you apart and elevate your business reputation. You will learn how to use framing, lighting, and sound to create the perfect shot. Why pre-production is the most important phase in creating your video. What you should really be thinking about on the day of your shoot. And how to apply professional editing techniques to make your finished product a quality product. Using the skills and techniques that you'll develop throughout this course, if you're a nonprofit, you can tell your story and gain supporters and donors. If you're a small business, you'll find the right way to sell your products or services and gain the trust of new clients and customers. So, are you ready to join the world of video? Let's go. Enroll today, and I'll see you in class.
Hi, I'm Emily Benham, CEO of the Nonprofit Leadership Center, studio sponsor for the Philanthropy Show. Today I'd like to share 3 tips with you to turn a challenging day in the workplace around. We all have bad days, or days that are better than others. You spilled a cup of coffee on yourself on the way to work. An important appointment was canceled. You didn't get the grant. Even when something bad happens, it's important to get back to positive as soon as possible. You know why? Sean Aker, happiness guru and author of The Happiness Advantage, tells us that studies show that when we are positive, we are 31% more productive, 40% more likely to receive a promotion, and 23% less likely to suffer from health-related effects of stress. Amazing, right? So, what do you do when you're having a bad day? Number 1, take a moment and think of 3 things that you are grateful for. Write them down. Number 2, consider what you already have accomplished in the day, even if it's minor. And number 3, maybe my favorite, take a walk, change your environment, climb some stairs. Happiness is a choice, and the choice is all yours. Thanks, and have a great day.
And we're back with Frank and Carol Morsani talking about, in the last segment, about the challenges and the visions for Tampa Bay and for Florida's communities. And then also, I wanted to find out what your hopes were. What gives you hope when you, being so active and around throughout, what gives you hope in this community or other communities?
Great.
Well, I think it's growing up. We're becoming a big city. As we have said earlier, people are taking an interest. It was just so much, such a vacation place. Mm-hmm. And people dropped in and they dropped out, and so now they're staying and they want to have what they had in Philadelphia or wherever. They want to have that here. Mm-hmm. And so that is a hope and a vision that people will get more involved. We will have more museums, more artists, you know, even an artist colony or something. I think that would be great.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah, that would be neat.
That sounds neat.
If it's just people getting involved is our hope. More and more people giving of their money. I mean, how many big homes can you use? How many cars can you drive? So instead of doing so much for yourself, let's do it for the city and build this, as Sandy Friedman said, which we all laughed at the time, next great city. You know, this is what we want to have, the next great. Was it her? It might have been somebody else. Well, one of our mayors.
Sounds good. I like it, though.
Yeah.
Well, you take in the art colony aspect. You take Tom James, who's a fantastic gentleman, and what he's doing with his new, I don't know if you've ever seen his one, probably have, his magnificent art collection that he has.
And for those who are across the country, let me just say Tom James of Raymond James Financial, which is headquartered in Clearwater.
St. Petersburg.
In St. Petersburg. And Tom James is known for his vast. I think it's the largest private collection in the United States
Western
of
art.
Western art.
of
yeah.
Western art.
Yeah, it's building.
But he's
house.
building a whole building now to house his art.
Wow.
And so that in St. Petersburg, to their credit, has really found their way around in the art world, and it's rapidly developing. So I think some of those things that Carol said are on the horizon. The other thing, I think we can, without a doubt, we can say what Jeff Vinnick is doing downtown, taking ownership of the community. The downtown of Tampa is going to change, which in reality is going to change all of the outlying areas, because Tampa, not because we live here, but Tampa has been the industrial hub of the west coast of Florida.
And now there's development.
And now there's development. And
Don't you think the medical
well, yes,
complexes
the
that
medical
are going
complex that's going
are
downtown.
going to make us another
Yes,
Mayos, or for lack of a better word, I think.
MD Anderson. But what's happening with the Moffitt Cancer Research Hospital and the University of South Florida Medical School, and having that university in general, and the University of Tampa. University of Tampa is really now one of the premier private colleges in the United States. Years ago, that wasn't the case. Ron Vaughn has just been a fantastic leader to change that university. And there again, there's a situation that, you know, most of their students are from out of state. They're not local when they come here.
You have mad leadership skills, as they'd say in colloquialism. You're very inspiring with that. Because, and I think what I'm hearing you say is what gives you hope are to see these people who've stepped into these roles of leadership and are leading the community progressively forward. That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
And I admire the work that you do with USF, even though that's not your alma mater. But you have a faith and a passion around what they're doing and where our next generations are going as well. That's encouraging. Frank, I want to share this with people, because if you've heard some stuff from him today and you say, gosh, I would like to pick his brain, this is how to do it. This is your new book, just released, To Be Frank, Building the American Dream in Business and Life. And Carol did get on the back of the cover as well.
I did get in there.
We have her in there, but I think this is fantastic. Oh, and an introduction by Tom James, chairman of Raymond James Financial. That's wonderful. So look this up. It's available on Amazon?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, fabulous. We have to switch into our final question, which is what we entitled Truth or Care.
Okay.
Which is your heart's definition, not necessarily your head, but your heart's definition of philanthropy. Why are you, and I said passion earlier, but why are you so invested in making the changes in the community? Where does that come from?
Mine comes from him. He had to teach me. I mean, his.
Well, that's amazing.
He really did. You know,
wow.
And you get this growing up. His family didn't have a lot of money. In fact, very little. But they did what you called it earlier, the active,
the time philanthropists, the volunteers. Yes.
And my mother did a few things that, you know, when we were raised, nobody had any money. So you contributed your time, and he just grew up doing that sort of stuff. And I was, you know, if I have a few pennies, I'll probably buy a chewing gum or something. And they gave to these poor people who'd come to the backyard.
Wow.
But, you know, during the Depression, wanting a little help or a little food or something. So his family's done this more than I. So I had to learn. I might have been one of these that buy another house or another car or something like that.
So what do you feel now with that, Carol? Now that you've learned that.
It's in my blood now. I think he indoctrinated me there, because he's taught me everything I know and has gotten me involved in everything I do and we do.
At this point, we paused the show while Frank regained his composure. He also shared a heartfelt gratitude for their lives and all they've been able to do.
This is a very special show with this, and thank you for sharing this, Carol, too. And can I ask you your truth or care?
Yeah, what was the question?
Why do you do this?
I think you're supposed to. You want to leave this world a little better place than you found it. Mm-hmm. And that's how we define it. It's interesting. You learn so much. It's also a part of learning. And I know that to create, to be creative, you've got to learn. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we hope that by doing what we're doing, it will create a passion in others to do the same thing. And actually, I think we're seeing that. I think we've seen a change in this community dramatically in the philanthropic area since we started doing some of these things. I don't mean that in a braggadocious way at all. But when you look at the institutions that now have, quote, people's names on them, and that was never our intent, and there's never been a quid pro quo for any gift that we've ever made that they were going to put our name on a building or anything about it. Mm-hmm. That's not why we have done it. But that said, it's now happening, and we originally, before we used to give anonymously, and then I said there wouldn't be any Carnegie Foundation or Ford Foundation that wouldn't encourage people. So by using people's names, whether it's ours or John Sykes or anybody else, it encourages people to step out. And so we think that's happened, and we're proud of that.
You two make me think of the phrase, don't be afraid, and it was a Marianne Williamson quote, but she says, don't be afraid to let your light shine, because your light will shine on another, and that person will see their own beauty to be able to step into that light. I really paraphrased that quote. But that's kind of what I see. Isn't that the definition of inspire?
Yes.
To inspire that spirit, transfer it from one to the other. Thank you both for being on the show, but thank you more for being that inspiration.
Thank you.
For the community, for thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and for everything that you're doing. I've loved having you two on.
Thank you very much.
Gosh, what a joy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Frank and Carol Morsani. Wow. I love doing this show.